Mr. Chairman, thank you. I've read those minutes and find everything to be in order. Motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there a second? And a second. Commissioner Key. Any additions, deletions, comments? Seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Cook? Yes. Commissioner Gammon? Yes. Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo? Commissioner Key? Yes. Chairman Ketron?
Aye. Okay, next, members, we have we took under advisement from the October 22nd, 2020 meeting the drug screening services for probation and recovery court and drug court. So, ladies, if you all wouldn't mind, you've had time. I know this probably took some time to grid this off. It was fairly complicated, but you all are recognized.
Hello. So we just want to start off and kind of explain a little bit about what we do. As far as our drug screening services that we have right now, we have two different vendors. We have an instant drug screen vendor. To move it down. We have an instant drug screen vendor, and then we have a laboratory services vendor. So we actually have two different vendors for the same service. For both departments, wholeheartedly, we're in charge of collecting those specimens, sending off those specimens, receiving the results, things like that. So that's just kind of a rundown exactly what we do in office. What we would like to do, even though we do have different needs within both of our departments, we do share the same goal. With what we're trying to do. We do think that it's best to outsource our drug screening services to go 100% federally approved laboratory services instead of instant drug screening. And we just kind of want to touch base on the reasons why we made that decision and just present that way. The first reason would be staffing. I know especially for Trish's department, they have an allotted amount of time for those to come in for drug screening. Those case managers become, because they're gender specific, so a male employee would be in charge of supervising and administering that drug screen, and the same would be for a female. They're given that allotted time to come in to take that drug screen, so you have to take away time from your regular duties. And that is a huge undertaking when you have as many participants as we do that come in twice a week, every week, on a daily basis. So that time is spent by staff in-house having to take time away from their regular duties in order to administer those drug screens. So that would be a reason that we would also like to outsource it.
An additional reason is that while instant drug screens are at a lower cost, they are not near as accurate as laboratory screening. And in fact, they are inadmissible in court. So even if we do a instant screen, we are turning around and having to send it off to laboratory for confirmation because the instant screens do not stand up in court. So we're duplicating service.
Also, the turnaround time for any positive drug screens, that is a huge part in trying to address addiction or current use. If we have a drug screen where it is now, if someone came in and submitted to a drug screen and they came back positive for fentanyl, which is becoming more and more common, we would have to send that specimen to the laboratory and get the results from the laboratory services. Because our current vendor is in California, they do come every day to pick up that specimen at the offices that's sent to California. We usually, our turnaround time is on average of 10 days that we receive those results back through our email or through the Redwood system. So in saying that, it's not what we would like to accomplish when you're trying to address someone with addiction issues. You want to address that in a timely manner. And so ideally, we would need to have results back within 48 hours because you can't present anything or address anything in the judicial system on an instant screen. It has to be a laboratory screen. You cannot present that to the court on an instant screen. It does not make it valid in court. So that turnaround time is a huge reason as to why we would like to just go with the laboratory service.
Oftentimes, we share participants, so someone will come from probation over to recovery court, or someone will be from recovery court that ends up on probation. And right now, we cannot see each other's drug screen results. There's no way to do that under the current system. So we would like to have the ability to share the drug screen history amongst any government agency that chooses to piggyback off of this bid. If they were to come in later, they would have the same ability. So for instance, let's say someone at juvenile detention or another department wanted to come in, if we all shared that participant, we would be able to look at that record and do a better job at our jobs.
Yep. And, just saying that, it also gives you, seeing that drug screen history, a lot of times, let's say they're on pretrial and I'm supervising that person. You've established that relationship, their drug of choice. However, they may apply to be in recovery court, and that new case manager has yet to establish that relationship, that drug screen history, to kind of know where that individual is at. So being able to share that kind of information can be very beneficial in case management and trying to address the problem head on. Also, another reason would be cleaning up billing issues. Like I said before, we do have two different vendors that we're paying for the same service, essentially. To give you an example, right now, recovery court participants are coming down to our office to take their drug screens. And in saying that, you have two different cost centers. We can't see what recovery court has. So right now, we have to pretty much trade off any instant screens that they have so that, we're not taking from their department or vice versa. So that would be an example as far as that billing issue that we have to be very particular about. Your drug screen from the recovery court system, but that drug screen really needs to essentially come from her department. So that would clean that up as well.
And another big issue that we have is that the staff that we have that are performing drug screens are given on-the-job training, but none of us have ever been trained and are up to the standards of a federally certified lab. So if we were to go with a vendor and that's their only job is drug screens, those people are going to be trained very well. They're going to have protocols in place, and it's going to take the subjectivity out of it. So the client is not going to know that person. It's not going to be someone that they see every day on a case management basis. So we're not going to get lost in conversation and not pay attention to what's going on in the restroom. So it takes some of the subjectivity out of it. If you'll look and see, and you'll have to, I did it front and back. We did a grid that sort of shows the cost of some of the bids. We did receive 5 bids. 3 of those were for one service only. So either instant screens, lab screens, or just the collection. And obviously we are already doing instant screens paired with the lab screens and see that that's not optimal for us. And the cost of the collection only was so phenomenal that we did not include it on the chart that we've provided. What you're looking at are the 2 vendors that will do all services. Those were InVivo and AverHealth. And if you look at the last 3 columns, you're going to see InVivo, AverHealth at 4 hours of open time to collect specimens, and AverHealth at 6 hours of time to collect specimen. Currently in our office, we are with 139 participants, expecting them to all come in within a 3-hour window to provide their specimens, and that's hard to get done. That's constant collection of urine with long wait times. I know with her office, that's a little different. They have 8 hours during the day to come in. It's more sparse, and there's not a long wait time.
Yeah, so, and that's one of those things, when you're looking at this chart, you're going to see several different columns where we've broken it down from the instant screens that we currently use, and then the laboratory, and it's just kind of a comparison as far as those vendors and InVivo's and AverHealth with 4-hour allotted times and 6-hour, which also include a weekend and holiday as well. So those are days that would be arranged or selected, so they could be worked out between, because most needs that we have are the same as far as drug screening goes with her department as well.
So what we would ask, and our recommendation on this bid, based upon the information we've provided today, is that we go with AverHealth. We would prefer to go with the AverHealth 6 hours because that's a good medium in between the hours we are currently providing at each place. And we give all of our participants and probationers enough time to get in if they're working different shifts and jobs.
Well, ladies, let me help me understand, because this is still new to me after 2 years. And Sonia, y'all, Alyssa, you've been here, but Trish, you haven't. And Sonia, you may have to come up and help explain, help educate me. I guess we had probation before we had our court, drug court. We had drug court first, the opposite? Okay, so we started doing drug testing first. I was trying to figure out how we ended up operating in two different silos and not sharing the same information and working together. And then they came back together, I guess, with Trey and then with Steve Irvin. And that was...
So just to answer the question, they've been two departments. I know recovery court existed before probation for the county existed. Even though we worked under the same director, we were never mingled because they are two different departments. In their program, they're furloughed into the program, and ours is a sentence that's been ordered suspended instead of recovery court. Mm-hmm. So even though we were still two separate departments.
But it still makes good sense to use the same company and share the same information because you're so intertwined with your clients, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay, I guess the next complicated question is, since who is our current company?
Our current companies, we have two. We have Intrinsic, who does our instant test, in Redwood. It's actually Abbott Laboratories operating as Redwood.
And those two total $84,287.
And that is just, so that is the cost for my office. That does not include, because her staff that's doing drug screens are also doing administrative work. So that's the cost right now for our office to collect. The blue area is the staff cost in my office by hourly wage and time spent collecting urine. And then you have the instant test, the $49,500, that was annualized for both offices. The $8,906 was across both of ours. So it would be, yeah, that's genuinely what's going on right now is the cost.
So the total for both of you all, boy, I'm trying to read this, is $84,287?
That is actually,
can't be right.
It's an actual average of the last. So in the fiscal year with all the, with both vendors, in 2018 to 19, the county spent $95,670.20.
How much?
$95,670.20. For 2019 to 20, that was $100,679.33. And of course, that's not including any kind of labor cost or staff. That's just the laboratory and the instant drug screen, the money that was spent.
Okay, so I slide over to what you're recommending is AverHealth at $174,310. Am I reading this correct?
Yes, sir.
Does that include both?
That is for yeah, that's for
Both departments?
Yes.
Well, how much do you have in your budget and how much you got in your budget?
Allocated for drug screening service, we upped it this year because of projected pretrial release participants that are coming out and need drug screens. So we have it in $499. So I have $80,000 in $499. So that would account for about 60%. So I'd say about $60,000 that's allocated already.
Do we have enough? When's this bid awarded? When would the bid be awarded? Tonight? And it goes into effect when?
As soon as
it's not, yes.
Yeah, I don't know
Okay.
how all this
So
works. Yeah.
where I'm trying to go is, are we going to run short and we got to go back to budget and ask for more money?
The best, I can't speak for Trish, but based off of my budget, I should be okay through the remainder of the fiscal year, based off of the money that I've already spent versus what would be projected to be spent through the fiscal year. And you can share.
Okay, well, I'm just setting the stage for members to ask questions and be prepared. Questions, members? Use your mic, if you don't mind, Commissioner. Sorry. That's a new one.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess question I had maybe went through one ear and out the other, and some people will say that I do. But what's your cost right now combined? But it doesn't include other labor costs and all that, right? So with that combined, I mean, it's 174,319 or 10. Is that including any labor or anything like that too, or?
The 174,310 is all-inclusive.
Okay.
If whoever gets awarded the bid, let's say AverHealth, they hire staff, they have their own brick and mortar that they will lease so that our clients would show up there to do drug screens off-site from us. So they would be 100% doing collecting, hiring the people that take the urine specimens, the send-offs, the lab, all of it.
So this is more streamlined, and plus y'all can share the information. And if I heard correctly, you, other agencies that may be allowed or whatever could also see this information?
Yes.
Okay.
The other thing, and I don't think I mentioned it, is that in our RFP, we mentioned that other county departments could piggyback off of our bid. And at any given time with AverHealth, we can contact the regional director or manager, and if another department comes in, they'll take into account the volume that they would bring with them, and that would reduce our price. So if another county department, or even a department that may not be technically a county department but works with the county, wants to come in and piggyback off that, any increase in volume would then decrease our cost per screen.
Plus you don't have to double check if you have a hit, since it's not admissible. All this would be admissible then. Okay.
I would like to also add, as far as the cost of the drug screen, we do pass that cost on to those that are on pretrial and those that are on probation. So that is something that they are required to pay for their drug screens. So that's not a complete out-of-pocket for the county, but I just wanted to share they are responsible for payment of their drug screens as well. So.
Commissioner Key?
Yes, so in the RFP, was there a time set forth? Was this an annual cost, or is it many years, several years at this rate?
At this rate, it was a 3-year period.
So at this rate, it's a 3-year period. This particular company does a percentage increase annually on the drug screen cost. So that would be for the AverHealth 6 hours, that would be the $19. And that is just because of the projected increase of cost of materials over time.
Okay, this RFP is good for 3 years though, which is the 174 per year. Or
It would really be, if she's saying if this particular company has an annual, then it would be an annual. For that 174 would be an annual.
That's correct. Okay,
yeah,
just
without an
making sure.
increase.
And that's based on drug screens completed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's based on our volume now and our projected volume for this fiscal year. So when I calculated these numbers, we utilized last year's average and then our average for the first 4 months of this fiscal year.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation, members. Commissioner Gooch?
Just a few questions. So is the current one, the one that's going to California, taking so long?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so on the Insta test, Do we still test that if it doesn't count for anything as far as court?
So the way our office uses it, and I'll let Trish explain what they do, we will use the instant screens, and then we will, if it's negative, we don't send it to the lab. If it's positive, we have to send it to the lab. Instant screens are not going to be nearly as accurate as a laboratory screen, but we use those. They've been used since the department was started, so it just kind of started continuing on that way. So with the instant screens, we could instantly tell them, but again, it's not necessarily as accurate as a laboratory screen would be. So
Well, could you have false negatives?
absolutely,
Yes.
yeah.
But
Because
I don't
I've
understand why
actually,
I don't understand why we just don't send everything to the lab instead of, and do away with the Insta.
and that's our thought too. So if we select AverHealth, there is no instant screen. That's a complete laboratory screen. Because I've even had participants say, I'm going to be positive for heroin, and then I'll give them a drug screen, and then that instant screen will say negative. So it just depends on levels that may be in their system, different things. But a laboratory, because it is the only thing that's admissible, and I believe they even send some of their negative ones off just to make sure that it's, accurate.
So just to understand, so when you say RC part-time and RC case manager, what's that?
The reason that I included that is because currently on our staff, we have 3 males. So we have 3 males trying to do drug screens plus their regular job duties. So I wanted to include what it would cost if we were to hire 2 part-time people to come in and just collect the specimens using the same system we have now, and show that that would still be a cost expense for the county. And the same with the case management position. I was just trying to show that, if in order to have staff in place in our facility to do drug screens the way that they've been being done, there's still going to be an incurred cost. Our population is growing. We have 139 participants that are being drug screened continuously, and we don't have enough staff to screen them.
So basically, just make sure I understand, there's 3 bids, the Inviso and the EverHealth 2, 4. And so what was the case against Invino, whatever?
If you look on the back at the bar chart, the cost for in vivo was significantly higher when you add in, they charge a collection fee per specimen on top of the testing for the specimen. So it's broken down and color coded on cost, but it was going to end up being significantly more expensive to the county and to our budgets to utilize them. That was really the only negative.
Grab that one.
Okay.
Yeah, that
I
was
see.
the only thing, was the additional collection. The drug screen itself wasn't at a high price, but what would probably get us are the specialty drugs, but the collection that was in addition to that drug screen that's listed in their actual bid, and it was,
$15.20.
so it was $15.20 in addition to whatever laboratory services.
So if we were to, just make sure I understand this, if we were to hire part-timers to collect the specimen, then we're looking at a total cost of $115,359.
That's continuing to use the instant screens and the lab screens that are shipped to California. That's using our current costs with the money,
Does it still send it out to California?
yes, sir.
And so with EverHealth, we can get it within,
Within 24 hours to 48 hours, most every time. They have their own lab that is actually located in Missouri, I believe. So they overnight all of their samples to Missouri, and then they're entered into the computer the next day so that we would have access to those results.
I'm wondering about, like, okay, we use, where I work, is, I guess it's Quest Diagnostics, and they can turn it around the next day. Did they not offer a bid, or why?
They did not, and what you'll see is the majority of the people who offer bids with us for this are criminal justice-oriented panels. When you start looking at Quest and things like that, that's more of a human resources with a medical review officer type thing.
Right.
So it's typically two different services, and some of those agencies provide both, but our bid was relatively specific to what our needs were in the criminal justice world.
Gotcha. And explain again, what's the difference between a 4-hour window and a 6-hour window?
That would be the number of hours that they would offer. So if we did the 4 hours, that would be a 4-hour a day for 4 days a week, right? So the 6 hours would be 6 hours a day for 4 days a week. And then with one weekend, once a month, and a holiday. So they would be available. So the way that we have it now, we have more of an allotted time for them to come in versus they have about 3 hours for those to come in and take a drug screen. If we were to select the 4 hours, then they would be available to collect specimens 4 hours a day for 4 days a week and 1 weekend a month. Or
That's
versus-
local?
It is. The way we wrote it in there is that we preferred a location that was within a 1-mile radius of the downtown area because we both share that radius, and so we needed something that was going to be convenient and that will also have any kind of rover services if they needed it. We didn't request that it be a location that was outside of that area based off of the people that we have that don't have a driver's license.
Well, it looks like, too, that I guess we have to determine the difference between the 2 hours is almost $30,000 a year. And you're kind of saying that it may or may not be in your budget, or we're going to have to go back to get more?
I believe it's in my budget. I'll have to move money from another line item over, but I've been making sure that I have a little bit of money available to do that because we knew this was coming.
So between the two of you,
Between the two of us, we can get it
Yeah.
covered.
okay, for budget members, you heard that. Okay.
I'm just kind of,
Might have to move some money, but at least we're not expending new dollars until next budget year.
I'm just kind of wondering if the 2 extra hours is worth $30,000.
It's a convenience, I guess, for the client, isn't it?
It's absolutely a convenience for a client. For our clients, 4 hours would be perfectly fine. They are required to work second or third shift to be a participant with us, so they're accustomed to having short windows to come in. The people on probation, some of those work first shift, and that's not a program requirement for people on probation. Obviously, we want them to be working, so that's why they have longer hours so that people can work and come in and pay their probation fees and things like that.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation. Commissioner Key?
Yes, sir. But you are doing a 3-hour window now.
Recovery Court is doing it in a 3-hour window. We do it an hour and a half of the morning and an hour and a half of the afternoon, so that first shift can come after work and second shift can come before work, third shift can come after work. But probation is doing it in an 8-hour shift.
Okay, so even a 4-hour window would be better than what you have now.
Yes, sir.
Would that suffice for what you want? Could we, I mean, I'm with Commissioner Gooch. I mean, if it's $30,000, and if 4 hours is more than you have now, and we have a little savings there, and it could be sufficient, maybe that's an option.
Absolutely, on my end.
And I think that's something we've discussed to extent is that we do allow that 8-hour window in order for our people just because of the different work schedules. But also at the same time, if someone knows they only have 4 hours to do it, and we let them know that in advance, then that's preparation. And we can make sure, because you can, as far as their scheduling, aside from the ones that I have out on bond, we can actually ahead of time know what their work schedule is like and note that we're not going to make sure and schedule that individual to come in. So either the 4 or 6 would work for our department. Ideally the 6 because we have an 8-hour window right now, but at the same time a 4-hour window is also reasonable for us too. So, and I agree. I mean, we agree that's it's a substantial difference. But
I like what both commissioners have said. We're only 6 months away from, almost 6 months, a little more than that. We'll start working on our budget in February, so you could go with the 4 today. That gives us more than what you've got now, and then prepare to get a quote starting July 1 in next year's budget, and this would be a trial to see how the 4 hours works out. It's a little more conservative approach, but it gives you more than what you got.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Gammon.
I'll make a motion of that statement you just made as far as that's laid out to 4 hours, and then we can revisit this at the budget time again, and you can pretty much get your numbers and say, you know,
Yeah.
we're going to need to increase.
In that way, I think it would make the commission feel a little bit better, and as far as you all having to come back and you said you think you might have it in there, that gives us a little bit safer cushion to make sure that you do have it in there. Second, got a motion and a second on the motion. Any further discussion? Commissioner Cook, you gonna speak? Okay, you're good, you're just playing with the mic. Okay. All right. Seeing no further discussion, Madam Clerk, if you would please call the roll.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo? Commissioner Key?
Yes.
Chairman Ketchrin?
Aye. Thank you, ladies. We're still working on, I met with IT today and working with, I told Mr. York to get with maintenance and Mr. Mankin, see how we can fix our mics to, we got to figure out something, because every time you put the new mic down in there, it turns it back on. You have it off and then you slide it down there and it turns it back on, so we don't want you talking with your buddy while we're taking care of business. So we'll work on that, but thank you for the inconvenience on that. Next, members, we have before us night vision devices. Sheriff, we have 5 invitations mailed and 2 sealed bids received. Looks like Lieutenant Kaufman, if you would, I guess you're going to be the spokesperson tonight. You don't want to wear them? Show us what they look like. We can turn the lights out.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, the first one is night vision devices.
From Strack.
Where?
Strack.
First bid is from Strack, S-T-R-A-C-K, Inc., out of Yorktown, Virginia. While I'm looking for the quote, Lieutenant, why don't you tell us what you do with these?
So we use them on our SWAT team. About 80 to 85% of our operations happen during the hours of darkness. We use them for tactical operations, for searching wooded areas, open area searches of suspects. We have some that we currently lease that were military, that we got from the military on a lease program, but they were taken offline from the military in 2009, so they're already old and antiquated. But they're better than what we had before, which was nothing. We're trying to gradually upgrade.
Yeah.
The current ones that we bid out are white phosphorus, so if the old style was green, some of you may have seen on TV, these are looking like looking at a black and white TV. So you can actually make out facial references and expressions and see hands clear, which makes it safer for everybody, suspects, us, and each other. It really gives us a great tactical advantage. It's a lot safer for us as well as the citizens and the suspects. So.
Well, I was going to ask you how much they were, because I got a bobcat running around my backyard, but after I saw the price, I think I'm going to pass. So, all right, this is a bid for 3 from Strack. The unit cost is $15,400, and the total cost for the 3 is $46,200. That was in your specs, I would assume, Lieutenant, for both bids to be the same, they're black and white.
Yes, the difference is, and which I didn't see in here for Strack, is we have some training in the price. Training comes with that price.
Gotcha.
And there's certain criteria for the instructors, and I don't know that,
Don't see that in there?
no.
Look for the next one. This is on Tomahawk.
Okay, the second bid is from Tomahawk Strategic Solutions out of Nashville, Tennessee. Total of 3. Quantity, sales price per unit, $12,480, for a total of $37,440. I do see on here, Lieutenant, 2 additional days or 16-hour comprehensive on-site divisive training for county designated personnel.
They meet the specs.
Okay. It's easier to come from Nashville than Virginia, I guess.
Yes, sir. They have we're familiar with them as well. We're both companies we deal with a lot.
Yes, sir.
On other things, and Tomahawk has trained Tennessee Highway Patrol Special Ops, Metro Nashville SWAT,
Okay.
and abundance of other teams around the state. So.
Okay. That the only bid?
That's it.
We have 2 bids, members. You've heard the pricing on that. Now, questions for Lieutenant. Commissioner Key.
Lieutenant Kaufman, explain the usage of these. They're all wearable devices, right? Not handhelds?
Right, yes, sir. We wear them on our helmets, and they flip up out of the way, and then we bring them down. We can use them outside and inside.
It's a monocular?
No, binocular.
Okay.
So the field of vision is little around 90 degrees, so out. The depth perception on the white phosphorus is tremendous. With the green ones, it's like you're walking with flippers on because you're afraid and we've actually had guys get hurt, step in holes that
They didn't see.
Actually broke an ankle a couple of years ago in our school. So, yes, they flip down. The difference between the white phosphorus and the green, if we come in a room that's dark and the suspect turns on the light, or one of us inadvertently turn on the light, it completely blinds us until we can get them flipped up out of the way. With the white phosphorus, it still stays white and clear. It's just like looking through a set of binoculars without the magnification.
Gotcha.
What's the power source, these?
Battery. So it takes a AA battery, and you can do it with just a single AA battery, or you can do it with a 4-pack, which comes in the kit that we spec'd out, that Velcros on the back of the helmet, and it runs through a cable, and lasts, I think, close to 50 hours. So, which I hope to goodness never are you wearing them for 50 hours. So.
Kind of tough. It says here 24 hours.
24 hours.
4 AA lithium batteries.
Yes, 24. I stand corrected. It's
Yes, sir.
24.
24 hours. 4-cell battery pack. That's average 60 hours at 25 degrees, so I guess it varies based on temperature as well. So, other questions for the Lieutenant? None? Commissioner Gammon?
I'm very familiar with Mr. Kaufman's talking about. They've been used by narcotics and through the years, and like he had just said, they the basic ones back in the day would blind you to death if you wasn't careful. So I mean, I think that's an awesome addition to get your hands on these and safe. And is it the Tomahawk you're recommending?
Yes, sir. It would be.
Well, I'll make a recommendation to accept Tomahawk's bid.
Okay, I have a motion on accepting to purchase 3 from Tomahawk out of Nashville, Tennessee, and we have a second from Commissioner Cook. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Key?
Yes.
Chairman Ketchum?
Aye. Congratulations, Lieutenant.
Thank you, Mayor.
Use them well.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Next, members, we have new bid item number 2, exterior painting at Lane Agra Park, Maintenance Department. Gentlemen, whichever one wants to come up. Rob, looks like your boss said you're elected. Yes, sir. All right. First bid.
From CMG.
First bid is from CMG Contractors, 2718 Scoville Street, Nashville, Tennessee. Scope per site visit on October 20th to paint all 3 buildings is $26,750. There is an alternate. I think Rob said that he asked for alternates. Alternate number 1, all downspouts and gutters at $7,850. And item number 2, alternate is soffits at the barn and the community building for $5,500. And alternate number 3 is garage doors and community building. You want to explain to the members, Mr. Shu, about the recommendations on getting alternate quotes and let the committee decide.
So this picture here, there's quite a bit of vinyl on that building, and you can paint vinyl with a vinyl-friendly paint. It has to be a light color, so you don't have thermal expansion or it will crack. So we really don't want to paint. If you looked at the laying at it, I have some other pictures. The walkway underneath this here is all vinyl. All the soffit is vinyl on this building, and we really didn't want to paint it. It's not really visible to the public until you get underneath that deck, so you really can't see it. When they would do this job, they would clean that, so it would look new. It'd be vinyl. It'd be nice and clean and white again. But trying to paint that with the colors that have been selected, prairie fire and brown, I believe,
Bark or something.
it would be difficult. The soffit on the community and the barn is actually a porous metal. So it's, and if you've seen it before, it's full of holes. It's not vinyl, but it's metal full of holes. And to paint that, whether you sprayed it or brushed it or rolled it, you're going to fill up holes and have paint drips and things. It would be very difficult. So I wanted you to be able to see if you did decide to do that, well, here's the additional cost to do it. I don't think it's going to have any visual impact on the building because most of it's underneath anyway. You don't see it. The downspouts and gutters that was on there just for the prep work, you really would need to paint the downspouts and gutters because if you paint the fascia on this building underneath of those gutters, you're going to want to paint that. But the prep work is, they're pretty black, pretty dirty. So the prep work there is pretty expensive. So I had them break that out just as an option. It's almost inevitable that you're going to end up painting them unless you bought pre-painted gutters and replaced them. But the gutters are in really good shape. Replacing them is not necessary right now.
Question. Did I understand you to say that rolling and painting, if brush, or is that what's in the bid and stuff, the roll and paint, rather than spray?
Just for the soffit.
Okay.
Yeah, just for the soffits.
All right. Did they put in a bid to spray it at all, or strictly just?
Well, I haven't read this to see what the application they recommend is. Spray. This particular one is spray applied.
Okay.
This bid says spray applied.
So we've got other quotes to look at, but you would recommend painting all 3 buildings and then the downspouts and the gutters? Is that what you're saying? So you look at,
One other alternate, the garage doors at the community building. So those doors, I have a picture up there, Mayor. Can I switch to real quick?
yeah.
There should be a picture of the community building. Garage doors. Those garage doors are also metal. They're embossed and white. If we were to paint those to match everything else, the trim on that building is, or the walls are board and batten. So you'd paint the trim around the door brown. That'd be, all the trim would be brown, and the boards would be the Prairie Fire. To paint those garage doors, they get a lot of sun, a lot of thermal expansion, and that's a baked-on finish that's on those doors right now. They're almost forget. They're low maintenance, no maintenance doors.
So your recommendation on this one is base bid and alternative 1 for a total of $34,600?
Well, I'm recommending we do not paint the doors. Do not paint the soffits, but we do paint the downspouts and the gutters.
Okay, that's alternative 1. My question was on this bid, base bid, exterior paint, 3 buildings, alternative 1, all downspouts and gutters for $7,850 for a total of $34,600.
Yes.
Okay. And you had previously told me that you've got that piece of soffit that's come off there in the front.
They would put that piece of soffit back on.
Yeah, you got one order, or
It's already done.
already got it in.
Serta Pro.
Okay, here we have Serta Pro. This is from Serta Pro of Nashville, Middle Tennessee, Carruthers Parkway, Franklin, Tennessee. We have it on the Lane Agra, I guess in comparison to the last one, is the base bid for exterior of all 3 buildings is $21,348.29. And alternative 1, gutters and downspouts, $2,328.71. Alternative 2, the metal soffit and show barn community center, $2,938.23. And garage doors, $3,887.52. That's a grand total of $29,702. But if you look at the other ones, based on your recommendation from the last one, the base bid and alternative 1 is $23,676.70. Okay. I think these are all pretty good bids. I remember painting my house a few years ago, and it was a third of this just for a house.
agree.
That's a lot of 3 buildings to paint. All right, next.
Well, this is from Reed's Construction, and we only have one copy. So
Okay, this is from Reed's, R-E-E-D-S Construction, Morristown, Tennessee. Exterior painting, building number 1, $19,000 even. Add for gutters, $3,500 for building 1. They've broken this down differently, members. Building number 2, $19,000. And to add gutters, $3,500. Deduct for soffits, $4,000. Building number 3, $18,000. Add for gutters, $3,500. Add for garage doors, $3,500. Deduct for soffits, $3,000. Well, that's interesting. I'm sorry?
Significantly higher. I missed the first one, maybe.
Well, each building's 19,000 except for building number 3, and it's 18,000. And then you add, and add. I guess that would take care of gas and motel and per diem. All right, next.
The last one is CIP.
Last bid members is CIP. They are 104 Alpha Drive, Franklin, Tennessee. Base bid is $49,950. Alternative 1, gutters and downspouts on all 3 buildings, $16,250. Alternative 2, painting the soffits on all 3 buildings, $12,250. And that's all they have given us.
Question.
Yes, sir.
The first 2 bids, is that a flat 26,750 plus the alternates and all this on this thing? And from CMG and is it Servpro? I mean, is that a flat cost, or are they charging by building?
No, that's paint 3 buildings. That's all 3.
CMG is 3 buildings, $26,750. Downspouts, on all downspouts and gutters, all 3 buildings, $7,850. And then Servpro is $21,348.29, and then gutters and downspouts, $2,328.71.
Is there a reason to have such a big difference in the cost in this thing? I mean, go from the other bidders?
I guess who hungry enough? Somebody sharpen their pencil. They want the business.
Yeah, there's.
I do see Servpro. I know it's a franchise. They buy a franchise with them, but they collectively advertise. I've seen them advertised on TV. Haven't heard of the other ones. Yeah, Commissioner Key.
So let me ask this. Now, it looks like you're not recommending to do all the painting at once. Is that correct? With the alternates. So the base plus number 1 alternate is your recommendation?
Correct.
Is that correct? So would it make sense to paint everything at one time, since you know it will be all painted together? You'd have the labor out there. Asking from a practical standpoint, and then not have to piecemeal it together later when there is another need.
I think your recommendation was to paint all 3 buildings and the gutters and the downspouts all at one time.
All at the same time.
Alternative 2, you explained that it didn't make sense to paint those because it's got all the little holes in it and it may not adhere.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Okay.
Same thing on the garage doors, because they get a lot of sun and it may fade.
I guess my question is, why was that in the RFP if we don't need that? I mean, maybe change later, change their mind.
Well, I just wanted you to see the options. If we just said paint all 3 buildings, that would have included the vinyl soffit, the perforated soffit, the garage doors.
Very good.
And the garage doors would become a maintenance issue down the road if we did paint those.
Yeah, Rob spent one whole day last week out there meeting with all these contractors, and there was some question about, it's I believe, as you told me, that it's a little more expensive type paint to paint on the plastic. Benjamin Moore or somebody else maybe makes that, that adheres to the polymers in that. And so he came back and said, I've asked them to turn in their bids this way with the alternative.
It makes sense now. I understand. But to Commissioner Gammon's question, so and to your answer, Mayor, we've got two that are similar, the CMG and the ServPro, but then we've got the Reeds and the CIP that are totally out of the park as comparative. Okay, just want to make sure I got the numbers right.
Mr. Mackin, you want to weigh in? Do you want to weigh in, Mr. Mackin?
I agree with what Rob has said about the garage doors and the soffit.
I think I heard you say, with my one ear, that you agree with what Rob says.
As far as the soffit.
Yes. Okay. All right.
Does anything stand out? I mean, these costs are way different. Are you seeing anything that stands out on why? I mean, is there any kind of a guarantee or warranty, or it's just someone gave a much better deal? And
No, I really, the first two, the CMG and the CertaPro, look pretty close and reasonable. Maybe a little bit less than I anticipated. The one from CIP,
Company from Morristown?
other company are extremely high.
Reeds from Morristown?
so we've had experience, or someone has experience with the ServPro.
CertaPro, matter of fact, they're the ones that painted my house. It was not this.
It's not peeling or anything?
I'm sorry. No,
It's not peeling or anything?
no, I think it's just time to do it again.
Well, I threw some eggs at it on Halloween, so I don't know if it's...
But
Well, just for discussion, if we need, I'll go ahead and make a motion for ServPro.
I think the CertaPro rep is here. If you have any questions, I was just informed. Is he here?
God?
Okay. Your name is Scott Folan. You didn't do my house. It was a different CertaPro guy out of Laverne or somewhere. Any questions for the bidder? It does.
I'll move to go with ServPro with the base price along with option 1.
Okay. So have a motion and second to go with CertaPro for the base price along with alternative 1. Any further questions? Seeing none. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Key?
Yes.
Chairman Ketchum?
Aye. Congratulations, Mr. Folan. Yes, sir. Look forward to make it look pretty, okay? We got fishing day coming up in the spring. All little kids want to make it look nice, right? That's still in your district, isn't it, Commissioner? Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Next members, we have medical exam lab, ambulance service.
Yeah, I handed it to you there. Zero. Have any-
Dr. Hudgens, your favorite sidekick, Denise. Welcome. Glad to have you. You are the expert when it comes to medical exam lab, so here we go. You're recognized.
Good evening. We were hoping to discuss potential bids for the medical examiner exam room this evening, but unfortunately, I got the disappointing news from Laura that there were no bids made, so none received. So at this point, I guess I'm seeking everybody's direction and suggestion and counsel as to how to proceed. To give a quick overview, we had been awarded the Coverdale grant to be able to do a remodel of a stockroom at one of our existing EMS stations to convert it into a medical examiner examination room to do external examinations, toxicology specimen pulls, and to hold decedents for a temporary interim while we do that process. So we went from a high of getting the award to now we're a little stuck that we sent out the scope of work seeking bids, but unfortunately have not received any.
What's your time frame on the grant?
It's a 2-year grant. This build-out, though, was intended to be completed within the first year.
So you've got time to rebid if you can.
We do. So it's, actually I was going to seek Ben Mankin's suggestions as well. I'd already shared the scope of the RFP with him. Perhaps not to put him on the spot tonight, but maybe I'll seek his counsel of how we might change the specs a little to make it more attractive. I'm a little new to this RFP process, so I don't know whether it would be pertinent to perhaps reach out to those that were invited to bid to see if there was something maybe obvious that I'm not seeing that prevented them wanting to make a bid. It could be the language of the title itself saying that it's a medical examiner room / lab. Maybe that is deterring folks from putting a bid in when, essentially, I believe, although I'm not an engineer or a general contractor by any stretch, obviously, that it's a pretty standard build-out. Perhaps the word lab is scaring people off, I'm not sure.
So, question, have you seen this done before, the build-out on other models, other locations?
Maybe not remodels. There's a couple of other counties that do have a medical examiner facility, not a regional forensic center, obviously, like the 5 that we have in the state. This is not intended to do, the autopsy procedures at this point. So there's a few other counties that do have a small facility that is intended to work as a county morgue and medical examiner external examination room. So there are a few, but they've kind of been built from scratch rather than, so the buildings themselves have been constructed, not just a remodel.
Well, it sounds very unique. And perhaps if you found, maybe enlarge the scope, but if you found a vendor willing to, maybe there is a market for them as well. But that's interesting.
Right.
We're very excited about this. When Director Hutchins brought Denise on board, we've been actually working on this forensic idea for, Carl, back when I was in the Senate, probably 5 years ago, when you first approached me, and we've been talking about it. We've talked to MTSU about it. Actually, we were wanting to do it on a grander scale, but the concrete management program jumped in there, and so we're getting that building. This is a great opportunity to kind of blend in with the program that they have, the criminal justice program they have at MTSU. Now, Denise she's worked at the forensic facility in Nashville for how many years? 14 years. So her experience is deep and wide, and she brings that knowledge to us, and she helped us get this grant. It can save us, Director, how much are we paying for every autopsy? Once he pronounces them dead as our coroner, if it's drug overdose or suicide, we have to send them to Nashville, correct? And it's how much now? The price has gone up?
$18.25 for the actual autopsy procedure, and then obviously transport to Nashville on top of that.
And in the month of June, I don't know, I know our numbers are increasing because of COVID, but just in June we did 36. So you multiply that times $1,825.
So that's 1,800?
Yes, sir.
I was wondering where that decimal went.
Yeah, $1,825.
We're on track to, hit 500-600 this year? Or worse? what the county is having to spend on autopsies, and this could really save us.
It could certainly save us some money. Like I said, it's not intended to
turns out
replace
everything's,
having autopsy service done at Nashville, but there is, the opportunity to do external examinations for toxicology pull, which an analysis, obviously, that for those ones that are on the threshold or don't quite reach the threshold of sending for autopsy. So, that at that point it would only be, what we're, our staffing that we already have. But if we had the availability of having this examination room, it would save us, every time we don't need to send for a full
So with the
autopsy.
grant and the amount of money they'll save us, it'll pay for itself, and we'll grow this into something that tissue will want.
How much is the grant?
The grant is for $170,000, and I apologize, and some change. So again, this is intended just to be a small step forward to hopefully getting a forensic center eventually. But this would just be for external examinations at this point.
Thank you,
Mr. Mayor. If we had this facility, what would potentially be our cost for an autopsy?
Well, we wouldn't do autopsies at the examination room as it stands at the present time. So these would be just for external examinations. But for those cases that we've traditionally had to send for autopsy because we needed toxicology analysis, we'll be able to save that complete cost. So for those cases, I mean, it will be $0. We have actually a grant from the state medical examiner's office to even pay for the toxicology. So at this point, it would just be the services of myself and Dr. McDonald, our county medical examiner, working in that exam room. So it would save us essentially close to $2,100 for that.
So autopsies for us may come down the road.
It may do,
May,
yes,
okay.
yeah. If we're able to build out the examination room, we can certainly, would have to be accredited at that point, so we'd have to go down that process to be accredited by the National Association of Medical Examiners per statute. But this will save us those cases that we're having to send for autopsy currently because there is a question on the toxicology. So it will have immediate impact on those costs. It will certainly save us probably, I would guesstimate, at least 5 cases a month that we're currently having to send out.
$6,000 last month.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how many vendors did we send this to? Or, I mean,
7?
This was just contractors to build out. We just need to
8.
spread out. They're all busy. I know
Yeah.
every contractor's busy, but we don't need to let this go and take a chance of losing our grant. So we need to back up and punt, and we'll keep searching for some contractors to send it to, see who's interested.
who send out the bids? Okay. Carl didn't.
No.
Maybe, I was going to say maybe that's the reason we didn't get no bids.
Call 911. Okay. But Denise is, she's very articulate. She has a law degree, and she can help us get through this. We'll keep looking. We'll come back to the committee, and so is there a recommendation to rebid?
Yes, sir, that'd be my recommendation. I mean, this is, I think, something myself and other commissioners, I believe it's deeply needed. It countywide would assist investigators in the crimes and
Sure.
and the workability of everything, plus training and everybody being on the
Well,
same
the
page.
director feels like that he can pull in some other counties as well.
Feel like we can do that, and we need to keep in mind St. Thomas Rutherford probably within the next 2 years will be a level 2 trauma center. So that means we won't be going to Nashville as much. We'll be staying more in the county. Unfortunately, that means there's going to be more people that pass away from trauma. And then that case falls back on us. And it's going to get to the point we will have to have a full standing forensic center, or because right now we don't have one. We're going to hit $600,000 this year. And this is a Band-Aid, but even a smaller Band-Aid that she used last month saved us $6,000. So, we're doing the best we can, but we really need to keep this in mind, what's coming ahead. We don't want to get behind on that.
growth don't pay. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Well, it's the effects of the county getting so big. We got to keep up with it.
Okay, I got a recommendation from Commissioner Gammon to put it back out to bid, broaden our search. Is there a second? And a second. Commissioner Keith, any discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch? Commissioner Key?
Yes.
Chairman Ketchum?
Aye. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Members, under other business, I have one other item that was actually, we didn't pick it up till the last minute, but it was actually on the Budget Committee's agenda a couple of weeks ago, a week before last, I guess it was. And this was dealing with one of our refrigerated trucks. If you recall, back in March, we had no idea what kind of body count we were going to have. We were listening to what was happening in New York with COVID. We were listening to the news media, et cetera. So we were as the old Boy Scouts used to say, being prepared. So we got active working with Director and Chris Clark, our Public Safety Director. We located 3 used refrigerated trailers in order to put bodies in if we had to. If you remember in New York, there was a U-Haul that was actually leaking fluid on the side of the road where they were stacking them, the bodies from COVID. We have 2, thank God we never had to use these. We have 2 that we submitted to the CARE grant, so we'll get reimbursed for those 2. 2 of them are 73 feet, and 1 is 48 feet. Both refrigerated. They're in great working order. We knew the person, talked to the person. We talked to the mechanic company in Nashville that works on these. They go out. Carl has his guys go out and start them every day. We were approached by an organization here in town called Feed Across America. Steve, is that it? Feed Across America? Feed America. Feed America First. Okay, I'm sorry for the record. Feed America First. It's located out on John Bragg Highway where the old Heatcraft building is located. And what I believe that is Robert Stroop's property. He lets them use that property, this organization. The founder of this organization, along with David Edwards. Now, the founder used to be in the restaurant business. He used to be general managers at Houston's. Anybody used to eat Nashville, had best prime rib in Nashville. And after they closed, he came here and started this organization. Mr. David Edwards is on that board of directors, and David is retired from Pinnacle Bank. He was on the Murfreesboro City Council for a period of time and serves in that capacity with them. They came to us and said that they had some needs. Their problem is that they collect outdated food, vegetables, fruit, those type things from almost 2 states, 3 states, and about 300 different grocery stores when their stuff's getting ready to, instead of it going to the landfill, and they gave us numbers of how many pounds, thousands of pounds that they would be saving by not putting it into the landfill. And if we were to take this one 53-foot refrigerated trailer and donate that to them, the county could donate that to them, that would really help them out in redistributing, because once they gather all that food in, they redistribute to Greenhouse Ministries, to even Commissioner Reed said they even bring them to the church pantry in Rockville. Every pantry in the mid-state area, they deliver all this additional food to, and they have to keep it refrigerated, especially in those real hot days and dog days of summer. So we pulled it because at the last minute, we were trying to get a clarification from our attorney about donating. The county would be using the $7,500 of tax money to have purchased that. Even though we were going to turn all 3 of them in under the COVID, get reimbursed from the federal government, but the federal government says you can't get reimbursed for something that you purchased and then turn around and give it away or sell it. You have to keep it. So I pulled it off of the agenda at budget until we got a clarification. And in the meantime, we found it in the code to where county governments can donate to not-for-profits. Found it in Tennessee Annotated Code, and I called a gentleman that I knew from years, I worked with for years. He's a director of procurement for the Department of General Services in Nashville by the name of Mike Perry. Mike had a gentleman on his staff that was able to look it up, and he said that in this text back to me, I shared it with Lisa, that what we could do is declare it surplus. Declare the $7,500 trailer as surplus, and then in turn give it to that organization to help the hungry. So what I'm doing, I would like this body at least to give an affirmation to send on back to budget. We'll put it back on the budget, and then we'll take it to the full commission and let them, all 21 members, vote to make that donation. We're not in the business of, at what point in time do you draw the line. Of course, we have a list. I make my recommendation during budget year, during the new budget, of who we give to, like $1 million to the library. We give to all the charitable organizations. We have a list in there, and we give well over $2 million to charity through the county commission that's approved. But this has come up at this point in time. We don't think that we'll need that trailer. So that's my request of the committee today. Questions? Commissioner Key.
And what will become of the other 2 trailers?
Okay. Director Hudgens says he wants to keep one because they went ahead and bought racks just in the event of, and they're going to take it to where this new facility is. If we can get somebody to give us a bid, they'll take it to the old Salem Road ambulance station to where this forensic program is going to be, and we'll park it there in the event that something does happen and it continues to skyrocket and we have to store bodies. Because the problem is, what forced us into looking is because when Director Hudgens came to me, he said, Stones River only has 4 drawers, cooler drawers, to keep bodies before they have to be disposed of. Stonecrest only has 2, so it's only 6. And we were looking at much larger numbers than that. So Carl's going to keep one, and then Chris Clark is going to keep the other, and he's going to turn that into for the Department of Safety, and he'll use that for disaster type events. He'll have equipment stored in it, and we'll keep it over on Fortress at the facility over there. So he'll keep emergency equipment in that 53-foot trailer. Commissioner Gooch.
I like the idea, and so I'm going to make a motion to send this to budget with a positive recommendation.
Yes, sir. And then I would like to have probably the founder and Mr. Edwards to come to answer any questions about that.
That would be good.
That would be okay.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to send it with a positive recommendation to the Budget Committee on the disposition of one of the 53-foot trailers to Feed America First. Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Key?
Yes.
Chairman Ketron?
Aye. That concludes our business. Anything else to come before the order?
I want to change my vote to aye,
Aye, okay.
from yes to aye.
Okay.
That way we got a double aye. Yes, ma'am. Next meeting? Next meeting, December 3rd, marking calendars. Anything else? Okay, we'll work that out later. Anything else to come before us, we'll stand in adjournment.